In our headlines on this Wednesday, April 30th, here in South Korea. An executive order is in place to soften U.S. tariffs on the auto industry by ensuring that the tariffs are not stacked on top of other import duties, including those on steel and aluminium used in the making of cars. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of the Navy Jung Eun-kyeong makes separate visits to South Korean shipbuilders HD Hyundai Heavy Industries in Ulsan and Hanwha Ocean in Jeju as the Trump administration seeks to strengthen partnership in shipbuilding. Also, on the local front, the Democratic Party launches its election campaign committee earlier on this Wednesday afternoon, while the People Power Party prepares for its final one-on-one televised debate scheduled to take place later on this Wednesday evening. U.S. President Donald Trump has penned an executive order that allows for a slower implementation of tariffs on autos and their parts to offer car makers more time to boost manufacturing in the U.S. Our Shin Ha-young has details.
The U.S. government has decided to ease the tariff burden on the auto industry for 2 years. President Donald Trump signed an order Tuesday to temporarily ease tariffs on auto parts for companies that manufacture cars in the U.S. The move came after the Trump administration began imposing 25% tariffs on fully built vehicles, which took effect on April 3rd. Tariffs on auto parts are set to be implemented in stages on May 3rd. The new measure provides a tariff offset for parts in U.S. assembled vehicles equaling 3.75% of the retail price in the first year and 2.5% in the second year. These percentages correspond to a 25% tariff applied to 15% of the vehicle's value in the first year and 10% in the second year. Trump said the measure is meant to give automakers time to produce cars in the U.S.
We just wanted to help them during this little transition, short term. And during this little, if they can't get parts, it has to do with a very small percentage. If they can't get parts, we didn't want to penalize them.
Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Tuesday that tariff talks with South Korea are beginning to take shape, although he did not provide further details.
I can see the contours of a deal with the Republic of Korea coming together, and then we've had substantial talks with the Japanese.
When asked how domestic issues in South Korea and other trade partners are affecting trade talks, Bessent stated that these countries want to have a framework of a deal in place before their elections. However, Seoul's finance ministry rejected the remarks and reaffirmed that the country is committed to following the proper procedures and not rushing the negotiations. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told CNBC on Tuesday that he had reached a deal with one country that should permanently ease the reciprocal tariffs Trump plans to impose. Lutnick declined to name the country, saying the deal was awaiting local approval. Based on remarks from U.S. officials, India is seen as the country closest to reaching a deal on tariffs. Bessent said in a briefing that two countries are very close to a breakthrough. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
And U.S. Secretary John Eun-kyeong of the Navy is here in South Korea as part of efforts to jumpstart partnership between Seoul and Washington in shipbuilding. Moon Ji-young reports.
U.S. Navy Secretary John Eun-kyeong is on a visit to South Korea in a move to enhance bilateral cooperation in the shipbuilding sector under U.S. President Donald Trump's leadership. According to industry sources, Eun-kyeong is visiting HD Hyundai Heavy's headquarters in Ulsan and Hanwha Ocean shipyard in Jeju on Wednesday, both located in the southern region of the country. He is expected to meet with the company's top executives, including HD Hyundai Vice Chairman Jung Eun-kyeong and Hanwha Group Vice Chairman Kim Dong-kwan, to discuss potential collaboration in areas of naval shipbuilding, maintenance, repairs, and overhauls. The Navy chief's visit comes as Trump has highlighted the need to revitalize America's shipbuilding industry and the importance of partnering with allies, including South Korea, a global powerhouse in naval vessel construction. Before arriving in South Korea, Eun-kyeong visited Japan, where he toured local shipyards and met with Japanese Defense Minister Ken Nakatani to seek bilateral cooperation in naval ship maintenance.
The competition with China, especially regarding the scale of warships, is so fierce that the U.S. shipbuilding industry cannot effectively compete. This is why President Trump plans to revive it.
Meanwhile, acting President Han Duck-soo met with John Fallon on Wednesday morning to discuss cooperation in the shipbuilding sector, including strategies to integrate this collaboration into broader trade negotiations. 문지영, Arirang News.
And in local news, industrial output maintained its growth momentum in March on the back of strong chip production, but retail sales and facility investment lost ground. Shin Se-byuk covers the latest findings.
South Korea's overall industrial output rose for a second straight month in March, led by a surge in semiconductor production, posting the biggest rise in 19 months. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the country's industrial production index climbed 0.9% on month to 114.7. That follows a 1% gain in February, marking a continued rebound after a 1.6% drop in January. Manufacturing output jumped 2.9% from the month before. In particular, chip production spiked 13.3%, the largest increase since August 2023. Statistics Korea attributes this to sustained demand for advanced memory chips.
Semiconductor output has been climbing steadily since last year. In particular, demand for high-performance chips like HBM and DDR5 has reached record highs.
Despite gains in production, the domestic economy remains sluggish. Construction output dropped 2.7%, while service sector production, a key indicator of consumer activity, dipped 0.3%. Both consumption and investment declined, falling by 0.3% and 0.9% respectively from the previous month. Regarding consumption by category, sales of non-durable and semi-durable goods rose, but durable goods like mobile phones and computers saw a sharp 8.6% drop. Statistics Korea attributed the sharp decrease in durable goods to a base effect from last month's surge in smartphone sales and early EV subsidies. For investment, facility investment fell 0.9% as machinery investment declined despite gains in transport equipment such as passenger cars. Pointing to weakening domestic demand as the main reason behind the divergence between industrial output and consumption, an expert said both short and long-term government efforts are needed to tackle the slowdown amid internal and external uncertainties.
The government is using a supplementary budget and potential rate cuts to support demand. But in the long run, we need new growth engines, as most industries aside from semiconductors are losing ground to China, hurting both exports and domestic demand.
Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics, meanwhile, saw its highest ever quarterly revenue during the first quarter of this year. According to the company earlier on this Wednesday, the revenue stands at slightly above 79 trillion won, up some 10% on year. What's more, Samsung's first quarter operating profit also gained 1.5% on year to reach some 6.7 trillion won, or about $4.7 billion. These latest findings are being linked to strong performance in the smartphone and semiconductor units. The American Chamber of Commerce here in South Korea believes raising awareness within the American public about Korea's business contributions to the U.S. market may well serve the broader interests of the two governments. Our Lee Soo-jin explains.
U.S. President Donald Trump's hardline tariff agenda is fueling rapid, unpredictable shifts in the global trading landscape. South Korean companies are among those heavily impacted, which is why they're actively exploring new strategies to adapt to the shifting environment. We sat down with the president and CEO of the American Chamber of Commerce in Seoul on Tuesday, who spoke highly of the contributions that Korean companies have made to the U.S. economy.
I think that Korean companies have done an amazing job. If you take a look at the past 3 years, Korean companies have made around $140 billion worth of investment in America, making them the largest foreign direct investor in the United States. So if you are an American politician, a governor, or even the president of the United States, I think you have to recognize the big contributions that Korean companies have made.
But while Korean companies' contributions have been significant, more effort is needed to raise awareness of both these contributions and their broader strengths, particularly among the American public.
If you talk to an average American citizen who's living in Illinois, I don't think they know that Korean companies are the largest foreign direct investor. But I think that that's the mainstream America that Korean government and the Korean companies should really help educate the American public. And I would use the American citizens a lot more to be their ambassador.
And what are some specific strengths do you think American citizens should know about Korean companies?
Infrastructure is amazing. The people of Korea work very, very hard, very, very efficient. This is a great market to test out new products. The digital side of it is amazing, right? So those are the kind of aspects that people should know about Korea and why Korea is an important market for them to even consider investing in and doing business.
And the more the U.S. and its people view Korea as an important market, the more investment and partnerships will follow, which will naturally give Korea greater leverage against Trump's protectionist measures. 이수진, Arirang News.
South Korea is now counting down 34 days to its June 3rd presidential election. And for more on the partisan preparations thus far, I have Kim Do-yeon live on the line. Do-yeon, welcome. I hear the Democratic Party has launched its campaign committee.
That's right, Sunny. The Democratic Party of Korea just hours ago launched its presidential election campaign committee for its candidate, Lee Jae-myung. As we know, Lee is leading the polls. And with the election coming from a rival party's former president being impeached, Lee and the campaign's main message in efforts to secure the win is social unity. First, take a listen to Lee himself as he kicked off his camp.
South Korea now stands at a historical crossroads. Will it rise as a hopeful leader on the global stage or fall into decline through destructive backpedaling? The only force that can stop regression and lead us toward hope and the future is national unity.
This aspect is also reflected through the lineup of the Unified Campaign Committee. There are a total of 22 leaders, with 7 of them at the director level, with 15 co-chairs, and some of them come with conservative politics experience. One political debutante especially sticks out as she's known as one of the nation's popular healthcare experts, the former Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency chief, Jung Eun-kyeong. Back in 2020, when COVID-19 first started spreading globally, she gained international fame for leading South Korea's fast response to containing the then not well-known disease. All in all, the E-campaign team will have 15 subcommittees directly under the auspices of Lee and 35 more subcommittees to deal with all aspects of the nation.
Right, I see. Meanwhile, the People Power Party, it's preparing for a final debate tonight.
That's right, Sonny. Tonight at 10 p.m., Kim Moon-soo and Han Dong-un face off in the final PPP runoff debate, a crucial and last showdown to decide the party's presidential nominee. Neither cleared 50% in the last round, which was split evenly between party electors and an open survey. This also means neither has a clear lead. Kim also holds an edge among party members, especially those loyal still to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol, whose removal he opposed. But Han, who supported Yoon's impeachment, possibly tipping the scale with this faction during the impeachment voting, is seen as stronger among swing voters, an advantage for the open survey. That divide came to light during their last debate. Take a listen.
You used to be really close to President Yoon. What happened?
Dear citizens, I believe in democracy and the republic. I would have stopped my own father if he declared martial law.
The voting will open on Thursday until Friday, and on Saturday at the party's convention, the winner will be announced. Meanwhile, acting President Han Duck-soo is now expected to run for president, with his resignation from the caretaker role likely as early as tomorrow. If he runs, he'll begin as an independent since he skipped the PPP primary, a major variable in the race. Kim Moon-soo supports merging with Han to counter Lee Jae-myung, while Han Dong-un has been more critical, though he agrees that a merger may be needed.
Right, I see, Toyon. Right then, thank you for the latest on the presidential election. Moving forward, intelligence officials here in South Korea assert there have been thousands of North Korean casualties on the battlefield amid Russia's war against Ukraine. Our correspondent Kim Jung-sil covers this finding, as well as the international condemnation following North Korea's recent confirmation of troop deployment in support of Russia.
South Korea's National Intelligence Service reported nearly 4,700 North Korean casualties in Russia's war in Ukraine, including at least 600 fatalities. The information was revealed during a closed-door briefing of the National Assembly's Intelligence Committee on Wednesday. Intelligence reports also show a significant boost in North Korea's combat effectiveness, especially with the use of new technology like drones. This comes amid growing global tensions over North Korea's escalating military role in supporting Russia's war in Ukraine. On Tuesday, the UN Security Council held its first meeting addressing the situation in Ukraine following North Korea's admission of sending troops to Russia and Russia's confirmation. Hwang Jung-guk, South Korean ambassador to the UN, voiced grave concern over the military support.
Staggering reports indicate that North Korea now supplies nearly half of Russia's frontline munitions. Without this illegal military assistance, peace in Ukraine might already have been within reach.
The meeting saw widespread condemnation from several countries, including South Korea, the US, and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia's ambassador Vasily Nebensia defended the collaboration, framing it as part of their strategic partnership.
We are deeply grateful to our Korean brothers, whose fortitude and bravery will forever remain in the memory of our people.
While North Korea's absence from the UN meeting raises questions about its diplomatic engagement, its ongoing military support for Russia continues to influence the course of the conflict in Ukraine. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
On the entertainment front, Korean drama Weak Hero Class 2 has topped the chart for the most watched non-English series on Netflix. Findings for the final full week of April show this drama series standing at #1 in 9 countries, including South Korea, the Philippines and Thailand, following its release last Friday. The plot revolves around efforts to fight bullying at school. Also, with regard to the latest Netflix ranking, 6 out of the top 10 non-English series were Korean productions. Aging, it's just another word for living. And the wisdom behind these few words comes to light in a Korean drama also on Netflix that has been reigniting interest in the southern island of Jeju. In fact, my colleague An Sung-jin was just there.
This line from the last episode of the Korean drama When Life Gives You Tangerines captures one of the underlying meanings of the series, living life. The story of a young couple on Jeju Island and how their life progresses through many ups and downs caught many sniffling throughout the episodes of this heartwarming story.
Across generations, these stories and the lines from the characters were very relatable in talking about life and values because it revolves around family.
Such storylines have resonated with viewers from around the world as the show topped Netflix's global non-English show chart.
The theme is so universal. The fact that there are Korean themes involved is part of the fascination and the interest for me as a Westerner. That show makes me feel I'm there. I feel part of their life. I feel I'm experiencing what it's like to be in Korea during this stretch of time. I think it's absolutely universal.
The series' Korean title uses a phrase from Jeju dialect, 폭삭 속았수다, which translates to "you've worked hard." The drama portrays glimpses of the beautiful scenery of Jeju Island as a background to key events in their life. The characters grow up on Jeju's rocky shores in the 1950s, and these scenes were filmed around Kimyeong Beach, where haenyeo, or female divers, can often be seen, a symbol of Jeju Island. They fall in love in the warm, bright canola fields in the 1960s, another endearing sight on the island during April and May. The characters take part in a writing contest at the Jejumok government office, capturing the history of Jeju. And other scenes show off the island's natural beauty. This site right here was one of the places where the scenes of the drama was filmed. You can also get a glimpse of the traditional houses that represent Jeju Island. The local government is developing programs so that tourists can visit these locations easily.
Through hosting drama filming locations and investing more in these programs, we hope to further invigorate Jeju's content and tourism business.
So for those who haven't had a chance yet to catch up with the series, why not give it a look to enjoy the beauty of Jeju? 안성진, Arirang News, Jeju.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. Prime Minister Mark Carney has led Canada's Liberal Party to victory in an election dominated by tensions with the United States. On Monday local time, the Liberal Party secured governance for a fourth consecutive term. In his victory speech, Carney said his country would never yield to the United States.
America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen.
Carney's campaign gained momentum amid rising tensions with U.S. President Donald Trump, who had imposed tariffs on Canadian goods and said he wanted to make Canada the 51st state of the U.S. In his victory speech, Carney emphasized Canada's independence and declared Canada will never be part of the U.S. in any way, shape, or form. The Liberals secured 169 seats in the House of Commons, falling just short of the 172 needed for a majority. This means the government will need support from smaller parties to stay in power. In Syria, over a dozen people were killed during sectarian clashes in a Druze suburb of Damascus between residents and Sunnis on Tuesday. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, at least 14 people were killed in the predominantly Druze town of Jaramana, including local Druze fighters and members of Syria's General Security Service. The violence was reportedly triggered by the circulation of an audio recording on social media, allegedly insulting the Prophet Muhammad and attributed to a Druze cleric. The cleric Marwan Kiwan denied responsibility for the recording. The incident highlights ongoing sectarian tensions in Syria following the ousting of President Bashar al-Assad by Islamist-led rebels in December 2024. The Syrian Interior Ministry launched an investigation into the origin of the audio recording and called for calm. In the United States, tech giant Amazon on Tuesday denied reports that it planned to display U.S. tariff costs on product listings following a backlash from the White House. The company refuted claims that it intended to show tariff-related costs on its main website. It clarified that while its discount platform, Amazon Haul, had internally considered listing import charges on certain products, the idea was never approved or implemented. Initial reports of such claims led to criticism from the White House, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt describing the alleged plan as hostile and political, adding Amazon should have displayed cost increases caused by inflation during the previous administration. Finally, Starbucks is set to open its first ever 3D printed store in the United States. The location, which is drive-through only, is set to open Friday in Brownsville, Texas. The store was constructed using a robotic arm that layered concrete to form the building's structure. Distinctive, ridged walls set it apart from traditional construction designs. Unlike typical Starbucks locations, this store is designed exclusively for drive-through and pickups with no indoor seating. The company has not disclosed plans for additional 3D printed stores, but is aiming to move toward innovative construction solutions. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
It feels like summer is here already. The daytime temperature in Seoul was as high as 26 degrees Celsius today, about 5 degrees higher than yesterday. There were areas where the daytime temperatures rose to nearly 30 degrees in the southern parts of the country. However, as it gets chilly after sunset, please dress in layers when you go outside. Rain is forecast across the country tomorrow, and the dryness of the atmosphere will gradually be relieved. Rain will begin tomorrow morning in the western parts of the country, including Seoul, and will spread nationwide in the afternoon. Tomorrow morning, most areas will start off in the double digits with rain falling. Highs will move up to 18 degrees in Seoul, 21 degrees in Chuncheon and Busan. Another round of rain is expected on Saturday all over the country. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, and today we address the Trump administration's first 100 days in office.